12:30 during these overnight hours, and could potentially again be extended further, and definitely see the potential for some more severe thunderstorm warnings to be issued out ahead of this original severe thunderstorm warning. The biggest threat here from Porter Heights north of Cleveland is going to be the damaging wind. There's the potential for wind gusts to get up to 60 miles an hour with these storm systems, and of course periods of localized heavy rain, which again brings about the periods of localized street flooding potential, which causes a big concern, especially during these lackless daylight hours. So when we do have that reduced visibility, it really brings about a bigger concern for travel and the impacts towards people that are out on the roads right now. So again, this polygon right there in orange from Porter Heights extending north of Cleveland along 59 and pushing towards 45, that is under now a severe thunderstorm warning. The difference between a severe thunderstorm warning and a tornado warning is that we aren't seeing the rotational component with this particular storm cell, and we're going to verify that right now with velocity. So there you go. We're just seeing red all around, and certainly still seeing very, very impactful red, especially as we look towards these brighter reds right there west of Splendora. You can see, wow, 68-mile-an-hour winds is what radar is picking up on, so exceeding the projected wind gusts of up to 60 miles an hour. So certainly these storms have a lot of energy and a lot of push behind them, so they don't seem to be slowing down, even though, as Tim mentioned, we're lacking the daytime heating, and that's usually an integral part of the severe thunderstorm flourishing. But because those temperatures have just remained so steady and so aided with all of the moisture that we've been seeing flowing in from the Gulf, they really are pretty self-sustaining at this point and have the potential to continue until we see a disruption in the current weather pattern, which is going to come by way of that cold front that we're awaiting. But for now, it's really a waiting game. That's really what it is. We got to watch for how these storms develop as they encounter that moisture, as they continue to be fed by the warmth. They really have the potential to take flight in any of the areas that we're seeing that line of storms bubbling up right now. So for the current moment, we do have those two active warnings in effect. Of course, still looking at the flash flood warnings to the northeast as well. But as far as active thunderstorms and thunderstorms with a rotational component, we still have that tornado warning there, extending just south of Spring, north of Mission Bend, and that's it for the next 6 minutes. However, that could again be extended or at least reduced down to a severe thunderstorm warning. And then, of course, we have this new severe thunderstorm warning that's going to extend for the next 20 minutes. Tim, just copious amounts of rain with these.
Yeah, and you see the other polygons on the radar screen there, the red ones, and those are flash flood warnings because these are training thunderstorms. And what this is a line moving slowly over the same areas, dropping a lot of rainfall. So this is a look at radar indicated rainfall totals over the last 3 hours, and some impressive totals here. Off to the west of Sugarland, almost 4 inches. South of Addicks, 4.4 inches, and south of Jersey Village. You can see that band there of very heavy rain, and that corresponds nicely with the active radar seen right now. You can see that line here, putting it in motion over the last 2 hours. It hasn't really moved very far west or eastwards there as it's slowly creeping eastwards into the downtown area. There are some other cells starting to develop here to the south, and this has been kind of a feature. We've been seeing almost a moisture stream coming in off the Gulf of Mexico. So Matagorda, Brazoria, and even portions of Wharton and Fort Bend, southern Fort Bend, going to look at several more hours of storms kind of moving over your area. They're not as intense off to the south. They're intensifying as they build northwards and eventually getting that spinning component, that rotational component component that's leading to the tornado warnings here. Let's throw up here some of those tornado warnings to give you a heads up. We've got a couple more minutes on this one here that's impacting northwest Houston. This is up until 12:15 this morning, and that's for a radar indicated rotation or tornado. There's been nothing confirmed on the ground. Of course, it is the middle of the night. A little bit hard to pick that out of very heavy rainfall and, of course, a dark sky as well. But I want to show you here what things are looking like on the velocity signatures. Kim has been on top of that all evening, showing you the directions in which the winds are moving. The wind particles, this is crucial, especially at night, for pinpointing the area that we're going to be finding that potential tornado within a tornado-warned polygon or thunderstorm cell. This right now, this signature, I will tell you, is much more spread out. It looks like it's dissolving a little bit more from what we saw earlier, which is some good news. But if I go back over to the reflectivity signatures on this and go back into the same area, we are still dealing with a very heavy rain, and we're not really seeing any of that hook echo signatures that would be indicative of there being rotating thunderstorm or a tornado involved in it. It's just a very heavy rainfall event. There were some gusty winds that may be consolidating into a tornado in this particular cell here. So again, up for another 4 minutes. I'm not seeing any indications that the Weather Service will extend or issue a secondary tornado warning, at least as of now, as that velocity signature looks to possibly be dissolving, Kim.
And Tim, you actually brought up a really good point. We keep mentioning why we have such a close eye on why these signatures are more compact and where they're expanded, why that's important. When we see them expanded as they are right now, that shows that there's a little less potency. It's something called angular momentum. So think of a figure skater. When their arms are spread out, the storm slows down, and when that figure skater puts their arms close to their chest, they start to spin up more, and with that momentum of the spin is when a storm can really start to work its way from the base of the thunderstorm cell to the ground. So anytime we see this become a little bit more widespread, it means that figure skater is extending its arm, the storm is kind of widening out, it's losing a little bit of its rotational steam, so to speak, and when it becomes a little bit more coupled, a little bit more compact, that's when we certainly start to see its potency show. Okay. So for right now, seeing it spread out is a good thing, and we are definitely expecting that to expire within the next 2 minutes, which is when that warning is set to expire. But that doesn't mean the threat has gone away. Yes, we will see that tornado warning hopefully expire within the next few minutes, but we are still dealing with that severe thunderstorm warning. And although that is not showing any indicator of a rotational component, looking at reflectivity, it definitely shows the potency it has. So when we start to see those rainfall rates again getting into the 9s, it shows that reflectivity is picking up on potentially some hail cores, which would allow for those values to jump up that high. And what's important about that is hail cores are really indicative of the strength of that thunderstorm, of the updraft. So how high it's pushing these hail cores and how long it's allowed to build a coat on itself. So it really shows the strength of the storm. So anytime we see hail cores pop up, it's not just a threat for them coming down and doing damage, but it really is also an indicator as to the potency that these storms pack. So let's look at the hail signatures there. So very, very small signatures right now, just east of Grangeland. So if you look at that, the size of those, anytime we get right around 1/4 of an inch for a hail signature, that's really pea-sized, and a lot of that will evaporate before reaching the ground, especially with the amount of warmth that is in the air right now. But still a good indicator as to how strong these storms have been and how much they do have the potential to retain their strength as temperatures and as moisture continues to hold in our atmosphere. And let's see, we're coming up on...
Yeah, it's been expired.
Yep, there we go.
It's been allowed to expire.
Allowed to expire, but definitely still showing very pronounced reflectivity, which means it's still a strong storm, and it's moving and retaining its strength,
Right.
and definitely has the potential to dump down quite a bit of moisture in the areas where it's parked. And it's really interesting that these storms, Tim, have really been favoring certain areas and staying parked there, and that's why we see the threat for severe weather.
Right, and even though that the tornado warning for this particular cell has been allowed to expire at 12:15, the tornado threat at the moment has ceased, but we're going to have to watch this cell because as it charges north, it's still moving into untapped energy reserves from the moist atmosphere that's still in place. So we're going to have to watch this, and that's been the trend from a lot of these cells. They develop, they spin up, then they die down, they spin up again. So don't let your guard down just yet. These areas out near Jersey Village, Aldine, Hawthorne Place, Roslyn that were under this tornado warning, you can breathe a sigh of relief right now. It's still very noisy there with the heavy rainfall, maybe some small hail and lightning and thunder, but the tornado risk for you right now has gone down dramatically. This cell, as it continues to move off towards the northeast rather quickly at 25 miles an hour, that threat will then shift to the same areas that encountered the tornado earlier today near Humble, Atascocita, Huffman, Dogwood Acres, and south of Spring there. So this cell is moving off towards the northeast and will impact other areas. What we're left with behind these warnings are flash flood warnings. These tornado warnings, I should say, we're left with flash flood warnings because of the amount of moisture coming down from these cells. 2, 3, 4, 5 inches of rain have fallen in some of these spots over the last couple of hours, and that has since saturated the ground. We went into this event very dry with drought conditions that have been persisting for weeks. We've saturated the ground with our 1 to 2 inches of rain or more that these areas have already seen today, adding on another several inches, and that's overwhelming the drainage basins. And of course, the ground really can't absorb that much more. It looks like that same area that was under the tornado warning has now been placed under a severe thunderstorm warning. Thanks to possibly the gusts of still 60 miles per hour possibility here. That's up until 12:45. So that same area that just saw your tornado warning expire, you're now under a severe thunderstorm warning right up through 12:45. And then that same cell will likely persist in there and give you some flash flooding as it slowly moves on off towards the north, Kim.
Yeah, I think sometimes when we talk about these warnings expiring, we think that the threat has gone away, but really it just means one of the components has been allowed to subside, which is the rotational component, which is why that tornado warning has now expired, but that severe thunderstorm warning is still in effect because the wind is still a big issue, as is the localized heavy downpours. We saw that warning for a tornado now replaced with some flash flooding. Pecan Grove there seeing about 4 inches of rainfall just in the last 6 hours. Mission Bend seeing just about the same, 3 inches. Hunters Creek or areas just west of that, 4.5 inches in Roslyn, south of that, and in the vicinity anywhere between 4 inches to 3.5. But this is a lot of rain to sustain in a short amount of time. Again, these showers just passed through over the last hour or so is when they started to fire off. So if we even go back to just the last hour, that's kind of very telling as to how quickly the ground is being saturated. So there we go, just west of Roslyn, almost 4 inches in just the last hour. That's a lot of moisture to have to deal with for just this one thunderstorm cell passing through. Tim, what are you looking at now?
I was just saying that since the tornado warning has now been allowed to expire and we're just left with severe thunderstorm warnings, we're going